Hey everyone, so, Summoner's War, Rush has been out for over 4 months now, and here's my tier list for you guys. It's based on my personal experience and gameplay throughout these 4 months. Let's take a quick look at my analysis of the units that have been released so far. Top must-have units in your team. These are the units that have been amazing ever since their release. You can use them everywhere, in almost every piece of content, and it'll take a very, very long time before they ever get replaced. Craka, absolute perfection. That's really all I can say. You'll notice that every strong A7 unit comes with this buff. She gives 20% damage dealt up for melee units, and right now, damage dealt up is the best buff in the entire game. Craka also brings insane damage, but what truly makes her special is her target weakness, bleed effects, increasing team damage to bleeding enemies by 10%, and also increasing the target's damage taken by 15% while bleeding. That's just overpowered. Craka fits in every team and every mode, truly one of the most sought-after units in the game. Sabrina, still strong since day one, released on the game's very first banner, and still relevant to this day. Why? Because she has 2 incredible buffs, one of which remains unique. She offers damage dealt up, like Craka, and 20% double hit for the whole team, plus 10% triple hit for herself. Double and triple hits bring huge burst potential, and if you've looked closely at how strong basic attacks are in this game, you'll know how broken that can be. Laima, long-time top-tier DPS. She dominated the charts for a long time and is still among the best. Her kit is simple but extremely effective. The blind debuff makes enemies miss their basic attacks, a super practical tool. When paired with another blind unit like Ceres, you can actually fight bosses without using a tank, freeing up a slot for more DPS. Massive damage, great utility, fits perfectly in any current content. Anavel, an underrated powerhouse. You might wonder why Anavel ranks so high here. At first glance, her movement speed buffs and slows don't seem strong enough for this spot. But her true power lies in her target weakness. Frostbite, which boosts your team's damage by 10% against frostbitten enemies. I consider target weakness buffs the second best in the entire game, only behind damage dealt up. That 10% applies to the whole team, and the value scales even higher as you add more high DPS 7-star units to your lineup. Right now, only Craka and Anavel provide team-wide target weakness buffs. Tesarion and Grogen have similar effects, but only for themselves, not for the whole team. That's why Anavel earns her place on this list. Shazam, the only tank who made the cut. Why? Because he's just so versatile. Except for Sky Island defense, you can use him in basically every mode. His A5 provides 3 layers of shield for the entire team right from the start, great for blocking the boss's opening AoE attacks. Then his A7 adds a crit damage taken up debuffed enemies, another extremely valuable effect in this game. Now let's move on to the main DPS units in the game. We've already gone through what I consider the best overall units right now. Now it's time to take a look at the core DPS options, the ones carrying most of your team's damage. Mago, the Mid-Autumn Festival powerhouse. Released during the recent Mid-Autumn event, Mago instantly became one of the game's top-tier DPS units. Her insane strength comes from the 150% damage dealt up buff while she's in stealth for 3 seconds. Yes, you heard that right, 150%. That number alone tells you how ridiculous her burst potential is. On top of that, she brings 20% skill cooldown reduction for melee units, plus buffs for attack speed, crush rate, and crush damage for herself. Mago simply has too many strong buffs. I'll say it again, too many buffs packed into one unit, and that's exactly why she climbs straight to the top of the DPS charts. Laima, Craka, Sabrina, and Anavel. I've already talked about these 4 in detail earlier, so we'll skip through them here since they've already proven themselves as top-tier damage dealers. Soha, the balanced, high-performing DPS. You can check out my damage test video on my channel for the numbers. But overall, Soha's DPS is about on par with Laima, and even stronger in Rift and Dragon's Nest content. Her crit rate down debuff is extremely useful in Rift battles, and she also brings a solid attack speed buff. However, there are 2 key things to note: the attack speed buff only applies to ranged units, and to unleash her full potential, you'll want at least 85% crush rate, ideally close to 100%. Brandia, Queen of Single Target Damage. she absolutely shines against bosses and single target fights. To optimize her performance, it's best to pair her with strong AoE units, for example, Sekhmet, to clear the smaller mobs quickly so Brandia can focus all her damage on the boss. She also offers attack up for ranged allies and crit damage up for the entire team, making her a great replacement for Shihwa, especially for early to mid-game players. Sekhmet, the newest and strongest AoE queen. The more enemies you face, the higher her total damage output gets. She provides two extremely valuable buffs: crit rate up for ranged allies and AoE damage up for the entire team. With her crit rate buff stacking together with Cassandra, you can reach a total of plus 40% crit rate, allowing you to completely respec your trait stats from crit rate into crit damage. This gives your 7-star units an extra 150 to 200% crit damage, which is insane. Later, if your lineup becomes crowded, Sekhmet can even replace Cassandra in pure ranged teams. And because her AoE damage up buff applies to almost every skill in the game that hits multiple targets, you can rest assured that her buff will benefit nearly your entire team. Next up, let's talk about the support units. These are the units that provide key buffs and debuffs, and on top of that, they still deal a pretty decent amount of damage themselves. You can think of them as secondary DPS or damage support hybrids for your team. Cassandra. She gives plus 20% crit rate to all allies, and she absolutely deserves the first spot on this list. Crit rate is vital in this game. It ensures your units can trigger critical attacks consistently. You should aim to reach at least 85% crit rate, and eventually push it up to 100% as soon as possible. Now with the release of Sekhmet, we do have a stronger option for ranged-only teams, but I'm still running both Cassandra and Sekhmet together, and honestly, I believe Cassandra will remain a core part of most lineups for a long time. Melissa. In terms of design, she's actually my favorite character in the entire game, even though I play a full ranged team. Her unique Amplify buff increases attack power for units whose skills hit multiple times. It's an extremely powerful effect, and as you probably know, any buff that increases attack power for the whole team is one of the strongest in the game. Artamiel, the only male unit released so far. He provides crush rate up for melee allies. His A5 skill is quite strong but takes about 20 seconds to reach full effectiveness. The real value lies in his A7, which applies damage resistance down, making bosses softer and take more damage. This debuff, combined with defense down, is essential for any boss-related content. Charlotte. Her 20% skill cooldown reduction for ranged allies is amazing, similar to Mago's buff, helping your team use skills much faster. Even more valuable, though, is her A5 with the weakness Venom debuff, which increases damage taken by 15% when the target is poisoned. At A7, she can apply Venom on her own, making her more self-sufficient. However, if you don't have A7 yet, you can use Lusen to provide the Venom effect instead. Also keep in mind that Charlotte's A5 requires a crush hit to activate, so make sure you have a high enough crush rate on her. Tsuyuha. She grants 3 seconds of invincibility, increases attack speed for melee units, provides faster skill recovery, crush damage up for the whole team, and also applies defense down. She herself has very high crush rate buffs, which is great. What stands out the most for me about Tsuyuha is her team-wide crush damage buff and defense down debuff. She's basically a modern replacement for older defense down units like Kahli or Sheng, and since everything related to crush translates into huge damage gains, she's a very powerful and relevant unit. Grogen, released together with Sabrina as one of the game's first banners, and still useful to this day. He provides crush rate up for ranged allies and, more importantly, the Petrify control effect. This status effect is mainly used in Rift content, alongside other forms of crowd control. Important note, if you plan to use Grogen long-term, especially in Rift content, do not level up his A5. Seriously, if you've watched this far, remember this, it's crucial for him to perform properly. Rina. She can remove enemy shields and provide attack up for ranged allies. She's extremely useful for countering invincible or shielded enemies like Jeanne, Ophilia, or certain Rift bosses with invulnerability phases. Her attack up buff also stacks with those from Brandia and Harmonia, so you can safely run all 3 together in a full ranged lineup. Harmonia, recently released, she's basically an upgraded version of Rina. The key difference is that she provides attack up for the entire team, not just ranged allies. Her A5 also gives the team 30 seconds of CC immunity, which is mostly relevant for PvP, since it's not often needed in PvE. And just like Rina, her attack up buff stacks, so you can freely use Harmonia, Rina, and Brandia together if your team includes several ranged DPS units. Alright, next to the tank units, since Shazam has already been covered earlier, I'll just go over him quickly. Jeanne, a much better version of Ophilia. Her 5-second immortality buff and attack speed buff are the highlights of her kit. Even if you don't have her A5 yet, that's fine, you can still use her effectively with just the attack speed buff. This buff synergizes very well with units that have double or triple hits, letting your team deal more damage through normal attacks. Ophilia, a free-to-get tank that you can easily raise to 5-star and unlock her A5. Her immortality can be removed by a few units now, but for PvE content, it's still very useful. You can soak up tons of damage with just one immortal unit in your team. The weakness compared to Jeanne is mainly in the buffs. Ophilia's def buff isn't as powerful as Jeanne's ATK speed buff, which makes Jeanne stand out more. Next up, the control units. I won't go over each one individually, since most of them are mainly used in Rift content. In Rift, your goal is to push as many stages as possible. Usually, the devs unlock plus 800 stages every 2 weeks. The good news is, you don't need to worry too much about awakening or investing devilmans in these units. They only need one copy, and they'll work fine, at least up to where I am right now, around stage 900 Rift. These are the best legendary units, easy to raise to high star levels and very useful early on, though they'll gradually get replaced later. Shihwa, the best damage dealer among the 14 free starter units. She's been heavily used and only got replaced after Brandia was released. Still performs really well in the early stages of the game. Verdehile, the second best DPS among the free 14. Just like Shihwa, he's great early on, though you'll likely replace him sooner. Lusen, not the strongest in pure damage, but his Venom debuff is great if you're running Charlotte without A7. The Lusen plus Charlotte combo gives perfect Venom uptime, and later, when Charlotte reaches A7, you can replace Lusen with a stronger unit. Celestia, the first legendary you get at the start of the game. I still sometimes use her in Sky Island defense thanks to her accuracy rate buff. At around chapter 25, I still notice some misses, even with Laima on my team. Chasun, if you online farm, definitely keep a slot for Chasun. Her healing buff keeps your team alive and saves you from using potions. I still use her in my farming team. Ariel, if you don't have Shazam, Artamiel, Jeanne, or Ophilia with A5, Ariel can act as your best tank. Once you get one of the tanks I just mentioned, you can easily replace Ariel. Unique, red units. Ceres, leading the list, mainly because of the Ceres plus Laima combo I mentioned earlier. This combo can lock boss normal attacks, helping your tank survive longer, or even making a tank unnecessary. You can slot in any unit to take hits, use less healing, and still benefit from Ceres' crush damage up buff for ranged allies. Elucia, mainly here for her damage, she's the best among the unique units. In fact, her damage can even surpass some of the free legendary units. Kahli, her def down debuff is what makes her stand out. She was often compared to Kishan, but since Tsuyuha's release, she's less used now. Still, she's a great pick early game, very easy to use. While Kishan needs A3 and Tsuyuha needs a control partner, Kahli works fine on her own. And finally, let's talk about the least used units. If you see Tesarion and Kishan here, you might wonder, why? Their skills are good. Well, it's because these two require you to spend crystals to roll for them, and if you're going to spend crystals, there are simply better options. Instead of Tesarion, go for Sekhmet. Instead of Kishan, go for Tsuyuha. Both have much better effects overall. Other units in this category include Galleon, Feng, Wang, Tetra, and Lapis. You can still level them up and then reset him to get crystals and monster book stats. That's it, the video has already gone quite long. If you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll reply. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.